Hey guys, thank you for tuning into Deepwater Legends. I'm Nate. Troy's at work today, and today we have a special guest. We're doing something different. Usually we're strictly saltwater. We've seen a lot of you guys are tuning in that don't have access to saltwater, so we thought it was critically important to bring you some more relevant content. And we're very excited that the first non-saltwater person that we have on here is actually the vice president of Major League Fishing. Michael Malone, welcome to the show and thank you for coming on here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be on. And ironically, I live on the Gulf Coast of Florida, and I saltwater fish as much as I bass fish. So maybe it's a good transition for your viewers, and that you've got a guy that knows both on it.
That's perfect. Yeah. What you guys are doing in the industry is just incredible. I love tuning in on TV and social media and just seeing these pros out there. The format that you guys have is unmatched compared to anything else out there. And just basically just blows my mind how you guys are taking over the industry and really showcasing all of the positive and great stuff that's going on. And before we get into it, I have some questions. I'm not a bass fisherman. This is the first
Sure.
time, guys. I had a list of questions printed out. I'm interested in all kinds of fishing. I think it's important that we cover everything for you guys, and I just want to make sure I have my I's dotted and my T's crossed. For those that are new to Major League Fishing, can you give us a brief overview of what the MLF is and its core mission?
Sure. Thank you for asking that, and I appreciate everybody watching and listening. So we at Major League Fishing really now, as we are today, we're really a combination of two companies. Started really with an idea late 2010 or so, where three anglers and two of them are legends of the, or three of them are legends of the sport, but two of them have been are champions in their own right for being championship winners, being Gary Klein and Boyd Duckett. And Boyd's our CEO and president of the company. But they were actually fishing a specialty tournament that Gulf States Toyota was putting on, watching it and seeing what was going on, where they had uh, a bit of a live scoring opportunity. And it was a pretty cool format that they did, where they brought anglers from the former FLW and from Bassmaster together to fish in this tournament. And at the end of it, they noticed there was a live leaderboard. They said, you know what, we need to figure out how we can do this. And they went to a producer by the name of Jim Wilburn, and Jim owned a company called Wintercom, which is a division of the Outdoor Channel. Said, you know, we'd like to try to figure something out where we can get live scoring into fishing and make it fun to watch, because that's how every other sport is. That's how people watch sports, knowing what the score is. In doing so, Jim had his team put together in 6 months a program, and it's a proprietary app that we have called Score Tracker, where you basically can put in a score on your iPad app, and others can see it, and other officials can see it. And that was really the groundbreaking step that needed to be taken to figure out how do we make live scoring work. That with cameras on each of the boats, and then getting the anglers to come to a secret location where they would go and fish. So that if I'm on one side of the lake and you're on the other, and I'm leading you by 3 pounds, and then you catch a 4 pounder, your official will then put the weight of your fish into the app, and then that data will go to all the other officials, and then the officials on the other boats will say, "Hey, score tracker update. Nate just caught a 4 pounder. He now leads Michael by a pound." And that live reaction on camera, the fans seeing it, our TV talent seeing it when they're covering it, makes that compelling content that every other sport has. It's no different than watching the U.S. Open, and a guy's got a birdie opportunity, and another guy just got a birdie on a different hole, so he can't lay up. He's got to go ahead and go for it. It's those kind of decisions that we've made fishing fun to watch, and it's something that we do on the regular. Those events are on the Bass Pro Tour. That's our highest level of competition. This year we have 66 anglers fishing in the Bass Pro Tour. Next year we're going to cut it down to 51. But it's the highest payout in bass fishing. It's 150,000 in the winter. So next year with 51 anglers, huge payouts. Our championship is called Red Crest, and it's a 4-day tournament as well. So those are the highest level of tournaments. We also do some made-for-TV events. Actually, we now live stream them as well, starting in August of this year. It's called the Team Series. We do 4 of those. So that's one half of where Major League Fishing is from the catch, weigh, and release format of our tournaments. In 2019, after Major League Fishing started, we ended up You can call it buying, but it really felt like a merger of FLW, which was really did a great job of doing more grassroots, and then the FLW Tour and the FLW Cup Championship. They did an amazing job of doing tournaments over 20 years, and people remember those old Red Man tournaments from back in the day, and they facilitated those. Prior was called Operation Bass, and with that, it was a blending of the two company cultures, and it has been just an amazing experience. So when we are out there and as a part of it, we have the team that is combined together with the data, the TV, the technology, and then the tournament information and experience and customer service that we've had for going on 30 plus years of tournament fishing. So really a combination of two different companies that came together and made really a strong force together that leads professional bass fishing.
That's incredible. What initially drew you to the world of professional bass fishing? I'm sure it didn't just happen overnight.
I'm pretty fortunate. I grew up in the Adirondacks, and but the first fish that I remember and caught, and that's actually my dad got a picture of it. We were in the North Carolina mountains at my aunt's lake mountain house, and I'm literally on a cane pole, and I've got a picture of catching my first little brim. But I grew up smallmouth fishing upstate New York. I was actually in the event business and hospitality and hotels and tourism offices. And long story short, worked my way and got to ESPN in '05 and started with the Great Outdoor Games, which a lot of people call it the Lumberjack Olympics. Is all the lumberjack games and the dog jumping and the dog courses. Skeet shooting was a part of it. But at the time, Bassmaster was a division of ESPN, and I made the transition there and worked for Bassmaster for 13 years. And then when Major League Fishing went from being just this made for TV program to then being a league in 2018. So as I mentioned before, that format of a catch, weigh, and release format was just a made for TV program, but it happened to be the number one show on the Outdoor Channel. And the anglers liked it, and they wanted to make a change in the industry. And both anglers from Bassmaster and FLW came together and said, we want something more, and we want Major League Fishing to put it together. So that was the advent of the Bass Pro Tour in late 2018, and I started with Major League Fishing then when the league started. The first or second person hired that started things up. The TV component was there, obviously, but they were doing TV programs before, and the tournament side of it. So I joined on the event side, and kind of as you've been in the industry for a while, you do a lot of different things. I've done sponsorship and media marketing and PR, but now more so on the business development side, and really introducing our brand now to new companies and bringing new companies into it. A lot of non-endemics obviously want to find out and reach our fans because our fans are so passionate and loyal, and because of our reach, being on the Discovery Channel, being on CBS Network and the Outdoor Channel, we reach a very broad audience. So when potential sponsors and companies want to say, hey, why would we want to sponsor fishing? They see that our anglers, they're much more affluent than they think than they first thought. They have a lot more disposable income. They are influencers in their community where uh, they know how to work under the hood. They know how to work around the house. So the type of products that they use is very specific, and they want quality products. And they have an affinity. We call it, it's more of the bed to boat marketing. They get up, some of them are coffee drinkers, some of them drink energy drinks. They stop at particular gas stations and they get certain snacks. All those different things when it comes to consumer products, right down to the clothes they wear, are all things that are potential for these sponsors. When it comes to the arc of my career and the arc of the industry, there's been I've been very fortunate to be a part of it. I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of changes, and we've got some great things coming up with Major League Fishing in the weeks and months ahead. Some announcements we'll have at ICAST that will be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure your demographics are similar to ours. When we look at the algorithms, it's mostly men aged 35 to 65, people that are boat owners or looking to
Mhm.
be boat owners, fishermen, and shout out to you guys. We love you. And it's just a great audience. They're really supportive overall, and we love our listeners and our viewers and really appreciate them. And please like and subscribe to us as well as the MLF. These guys are bringing tremendous content. So during your time with the MLF, what do you think is the most significant milestone or milestones that you've reached?
Yeah, I think the big thing is the technology that started it, and the use of the catch, weigh, and release format. It's done so much for learning about how anglers need to catch fish and what they do. I think that's the first step from the league's decision and changing how we change the format of it. Now, obviously, from a purist side of things, most bass tournaments are catch your five biggest fish, keep culling, and then doing that. I don't think that'll go away at this point where it's not going to be a dramatic change, but I do see changes coming with that, based on the ability to have tournament weigh-ins. The catch and release format works great in hot climates. So if we had a fish, in Middle America in July, we're not gonna lose any fish in the live well because it's too hot. We're gonna release them instantly. So when you think about that, and for the average angler, from where I live, I've got west is that way, and the Gulf of Mexico is 3 miles, and a half a mile this way is Lake Tarpon, a 2,000 acre lake right here. And there's a Tuesday night tournament that happens, and as I watch the weights on the Facebook page, the weights go down in the summertime, and obviously it's going to happen in Florida. But if they use a catch and release format, there may be more fish catches, and there may be more scoring as a part of it. So I think as we grow as a company, and more people lean into the catch, weigh, and release format, I think that'll be the big thing for as to what we've done and how that's going to grow in the future. The other thing too, though, that's a big topic in the fishing industry, is the forward-facing sonar, where it has made such a game changer for it. What we've
Same
done
with
as
the
a company,
OmniScan offshore. Like, I mean, those
yeah,
things are incredible.
it is. However, it takes some of the competition out of it, and once you figure out how to use it, it is a game changer. Our play, as we have for the Bass Pro Tour, is that there are 3 periods, 2.5 hours long. Anglers can decide which one of the 3 periods they could utilize forward-facing sonar, and then we have basically a lockbox where they can't use it, and we cover up the transducer, and you can't utilize it. On the Tackle Warehouse Invitationals, which is our what I would call our AAA level and our qualifying level to get to the Bass Pro Tour. We have those are 3-day tournaments, and it's day on where they can use it, day off they can't, and then day on again. So by doing that, that satisfies a lot of the angler needs of keeping the playing field. I wouldn't say fair, but I would say making sure that all styles of fishing are represented. There are still some tournaments where the guys don't even use forward facing sonar at all because where the fish are and where they're positioned during the tournament. So from that standpoint, we were the first to make a decision when it came to how we could utilize forward facing sonar, and it's shown on our numbers. Our numbers are up dramatically when it comes to our live stream, and our social media impressions. So with that, we could tell that the fans like the decisions we made, and I think that's part of the big things of what we're doing at Major League Fishing is that we're listening. We want to know what the anglers want to know. We want to know what the fans want to know and what want to see, because they want to see good content. They want to make it fun to watch. They don't want to look at guys looking at a screen all day. So there's that balance that needs to happen of you want to have good competition, you want to get them to catch fish, but you also, want to make it fun to watch for the fans because if the
I
fans aren't
also
there,
think that it's a huge relatability factor as well. You have
yeah,
so many fishermen out there that don't have forward facing sonar, and seeing guys going out there and just doing it the old fashioned way, per se, catching fish is exciting. It's like,
it is.
hey, this isn't just a sport where we have to have tens of thousands of dollars dumped into screens and stuff. This is something that we can go out there and still be competitive and do the same stuff. And it's a
Absolutely.
really awesome thing that you guys are doing. And I love the catch and release format. That definitely helps with the fish mortality. I also like in the events where they are keeping fish, I see companies are coming out with ways to chill your live wells and stuff like that. So it is
Yeah.
driving innovation that way as well. And it's just great to see innovation in the fishing industry in general,
Mhm.
and seeing it progress, because we all want this sport to grow. We want people to get involved, and we want this to be around for generations, because as participation drops off. We fear, at least us here at Deepwater Legends, fear that like your right to really be able to go out there and catch these fish and enjoy the sport is going to get stripped away uh, piece by piece, and by keeping the involvement of the younger generation and everyone involved really keeps it right in the forefront and makes sure that this is around for a long time.
Mhm.
How would you describe the current landscape of professional bass fishing, and what are the biggest trends you're seeing?
I think the landscape of professional bass fishing is right now. I think it's one of those places where people might think it's in a lull, but I think it's in a very big growth area right now. You grow in the valleys. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. And I think there's a valley right now when it comes to the economy that people just really are taking stock. They're worried about tariffs. The companies are worried about tariffs. So I'm not saying anything that's out of school. We know what's going on. Everybody's talking about it. But I think this is a great growth opportunity for our sport and for people to get involved in our sport because of what we're doing at Major League Fishing from our technology and from our reach to new fans. So I think this is a great entry point for new anglers, new sponsors to get involved because we see there's so much change going on, and we're listening and we're making some changes to go ahead and really react appropriately and try to be proactive on what the anglers want. So there will always be division in any sport. I watch all different kinds of sport, and this past weekend I was watching the U.S. Open, and there were guys from Live Golf that were golfing with the PGA guys. We're getting ready in a couple of weeks to start seeing guys come back to football, and the ins and outs of what happens with football. And there's always a controversy going on, and free agency, and there's all different topics. And I remember I was graduating from college, and I had my first job, and I met a guy, and he was a restaurant owner, and he gave me his business card out of just some business we were doing. And on the back of this card, it said, "The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about." And there's something to be said for that. That we're not looking for strife. We want everybody to get along and do it, but I think as a part of things, it's our job as the league to be the leading force in making changes that are right for the industry. Sometimes they're not going to be things that everybody likes. You're never going to please everybody all the time. But I think from where we are as a company, we're on the right path for what our plans are. And I think we've got a lot of new growth that's going to be happening in the months and years ahead because of it. So people are talking about the industry and and living here on the Gulf Coast. Gas prices go up, and that hurts the saltwater business because people just aren't spending as much money to go further offshore. And you guys know that, especially when it comes to it. So
But
every
you don't want to exchange gas bills. We'll do it
right,
any day you want to, but
right,
you won't
right,
like it.
right, exactly.
So what do you see as the biggest challenge facing professional bass fishing today, and how is the MLF addressing it?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that because on my screen as we're talking, I just got a note as to when we're going to be um, uh, showing our CBS broadcast. I think the biggest thing is eyeballs. There's eyeballs everywhere, and there's not enough of them for how many platforms are out there between social and digital and linear TV. And the main thing is getting our product in front of as many people as possible. And with our coverage on Discovery Channel, we'll start the first Saturday in July. We'll start airing the Bass Pro Tour shows and the Red Crest shows, Heavy Hitters, which was just sponsored by B&W Trailer Hitches. We just held that in Smith Mountain Lake. Um, we are always looking for different ways to reach new fans and bring new fans to the sport. Obviously, from our format of being a compelling format, that does a really great job of it because it's fun to watch. So I think that's the biggest challenge of the sport is if we can continue to bring and continue to grow as we have, over the past 7 years of the Bass Pro Tour and continue to do our work, bringing new anglers to the sport, and as these college and high school kids are coming up, that they are continuing to fish with us all through the Phoenix BFLs, the Bass Fishing Leagues, the Toyota Series, the Taco Warehouse Invitationals, and as they aspire to be anglers in the Bass Pro Tour. Those two things are the number one thing, and it's really our responsibility to do it. But we have to do that. We have to go out and put out the best product, and put it in front of the right people, And as I mentioned, Discovery Channel starts third and fourth quarter on Saturday morning, 7 o'clock on Discovery. We're going to have our live stream on MajorLeagueFishing.com and MOTV. And then in December, we're going to do a 1 hour recap show of our heavy hitters program that we aired in Smith Mountain Lake. It was just live streamed. We'll do shows of it on Discovery, but then we'll do a 1 hour recap show of that. And it's adjacent to an NFL game, CBS Network. Last year, we had over 2 million viewers. And there's no other outdoor content that's getting over 2 million people for one broadcast. And we're doing it. So we make those investments to do that. It helps our sponsors. It certainly helps our anglers. It helps our company, obviously, but it helps the industry. And the cliche "rising tide lifts all boats." It's our job to do those things and put that out there to bring more fans to our sport.
And in addition to those channels, while we're speaking about eyeballs, you guys can also find these guys on social media. They have a presence on
Yeah.
Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're on TikTok. You said there were a couple other platforms that you were on as well.
Mhm. Yeah. So
And
yeah, Rumble. Yep.
Rumble, and they also have a podcast on their website that you can go watch. There's angler interviews and all kinds of great stuff there. We really just suggest that you guys get involved in fishing. There's so much great stuff going on. There's so many great people behind it. And if you can't be out there fishing yourself due to weather or work or something like that, there's other
Mhm.
opportunities to listen to it. Like you got to live about it.
Yeah.
Like we live the fishing life. Like if I'm not actually fishing, I'm rigging fishing lines or I'm listening to fishing or I'm researching fishing or being a weatherman to plan my next trip. And
Mhm.
all of that stuff goes into honing your craft because you never know when you're going to find that aha moment or that one trick that you didn't know before, and it's going to change the game for you, and you're going to fall back in love with it or fall more in love with it, and it's going to be excellent. With you mentioning sponsors, I'll give you an opportunity to shout out a couple of your sponsors if you would like.
Yeah.
uh,
Thank you. Yeah,
no
and
problem.
if I'll go back to TV though, but as I mentioned, we're a division of the Outdoor Channel, which is part of Cronky Sports, and the Rams, the Nuggets, the Avalanche, Arsenal Soccer, all part of our sister companies. But the Outdoor Channel and the Outdoor Sportsman's Group, and all the different great outdoor publications, Game and Fish, Florida Sportsman down here, just to name a few that we are a part of in the family. And we now have a Game and Fish Fast channel that fans can go and see. Salt, freshwater hunting, shooting, all part of that Game and Fish Fast channel, and our Bass Pro Tour broadcasts live stream are on there as well. So check your listings on that. You know, a lot of places those are free, that they come with your Samsung TV and such. But we've got some fantastic sponsors. Bass Pro has been with us from the start. Bass Pro Shops is just obviously the stalwart in the industry, and they are really so conservation focused and really leaned into our catch, weigh, and release format. Toyota has been a great sponsor for a number of years, and they're our exclusive truck when it comes to it. And we have I can go right down the list from a lot of the um, endemic sponsors, Power Pole, Pure Fishing, TH Marine. I'm going to name some and forget some. Epic, and I'm going to miss more than I'll remember now. But the other part that I do want to note is that we do have a lot of non-endemics that are sponsors of us because they want to reach us. So when it comes to Ferguson Plumbing Supply, Wix Air Filters, O'Reilly Auto Parts, just name a couple that Kubota, that are not traditional fishing fans, fish because they don't sell hooks and tackle, but they want to reach our guys. So just naming a few, but you'll see them all on MajorLeagueFishing.com and see all of our sponsors.
And do you have any dream sponsors that you're not currently working with that you're like, hey, reach out to
Absolutely.
me?
Absolutely. And they've heard me. They've heard from us. So we don't leave any stones unturned. But that's part of it. We want to introduce them because once they see who our demographic is and they realize, oh, we should be talking to you. That's part of it, and getting them to be a part of the sport and introducing them to it. So yeah, that's what we're doing, is going out there and trying to find the new ones and introducing them to the sport, and then even our anglers too. Our anglers turn into ambassadors for them, so it continues with a ripple effect.
And remember, sponsors, we have the same demographics. Shoot me an email.
Exactly.
And
Nice.
shout out to Outdoor Network. We need a show. Um, So,
We know a guy. We can help you out. So
oh,
just gotta.
perfect. Just let me know. We film, edit, we have boats. They don't need to do any of the stuff. We can just produce and send it over their way. So back to it. What are the biggest opportunities for growth in the sport that you're seeing?
First thing with the youth, we're seeing a huge push in the high school and college movement, with so many high school and college kids that are boys and girls who are participating in the sport. And from that point, we like to call them, being with the fish on the line and not online. Getting outside and doing that. And I think when it comes to it, when you talk about kids playing football or travel ball and the expenses that go to it, the barriers for entry really aren't that bad considering some of the other sports that have to happen to get to it. So if, kids go in a boat or dad's got a boat, and then they go out fishing. That is something that's really important for the growth of the sport, is getting those kids involved at an early age. What we've also seen in that, though, is sponsors wanting to get involved with that because they know if they can get a kid to be sponsored, and I say a kid, 18 to 22, and it's a particular bait company, well, then they're going to be sponsored with them and they're going to stay with them for a long time. And especially if those student athletes become successful, then they've got somebody in their family that's good. So we're seeing a more sponsorship go to that level because they want to reach them, as potential growth opportunities for their own brand. But then for us, the other part, as I mentioned earlier, is just to reach and getting more people to come to see what we all are about, and trying to help our sport grow.
And speaking of youth, so I know almost every young child, including myself, dreamed of being out there with Bill Dance and
Mhm.
Kevin Van Dam and all these great guys when you see them on TV. What kind of advice do you have for these young up and comers? Like maybe they're in middle school or high school and they're just dreaming of one day reaching the tour level. What
Mhm.
kind of advice would you give them on a potential path into the sport, whether it's early in life or later in life?
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things where you want to give pragmatic advice to a young person, where you follow your dreams, but you also make good decisions when it comes to it, because it's very easy to chase, without being necessarily prudent about different things. We have, and this is kind of where it gets to cut a little bit of brass tacks. We've got 51 anglers next year fishing the Bass Pro Tour, 150 in the Tackle Warehouse, but overall, 30,000 anglers are signing up for tournaments with Major League Fishing from the high school level all the way to the pros every year. It's a lot of people when it does it. So that's with pros and co-anglers that come along with that. So not everybody needs to be a professional fisherman to get to that. So kind of have to make the decision. If I was talking to a young person here, is this really what you want to do, or is this what you want to do on the side and have fun with it? And that could be your passion. I've got a buddy that he golfs every weekend, and he's spending his money on greens fees and travel to golf clubs and all that stuff, and that's what he does. Um, we don't want to deter anybody from it, but when it comes to the broad picture of it, we're trying to reach all anglers and people who are maybe anglers and get them to be an angler. And that's one of the beauties of the sport of bass fishing, is that, and I use this analogy, I've been fortunate to go to the Masters twice, but I probably won't play Augusta National. Okay. But you can fish on Santee Cooper or Lake Murray or Lake Gunnersville, and you could use the same rod and reel that Atta Foe and Edwin Evers and Jacob Wheeler use, and you could fish out of the same type, exactly the same boat. It's not like you're getting anything special that nobody else has. So when it comes to the opportunities that are there, we want to reach fans that are passionate about the sport, make new fans passionate about the sport, and get that to grow. If someone has a desire to go ahead and be a professional angler, there's absolutely a course for that. I should say more path for that. But do so in a way that you have revenue streams coming in that are outside of then just tournament entry fees and tournament winnings. And obviously, with the advent of social media and everything that goes along with it, you have to be a good marketer. You have to be a good business person. You have to have your ducks in a row at home. So it's the support system that you have, and it's no different from any other job. Who's in your corner fighting for you? Do you have family? Do you have a spouse that cares for you, that can help you take care of things while you're out on the road doing that? Do you have a good accountant? A lot of people just don't even think of those things. I'm just going to go on fish a tournament. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot more that goes into it. And conversely, from the saltwater side, people who are out saltwater fishing and they have a $750,000 offshore boat and they're going 150 miles off. They've already made it. They've already succeeded and able to afford that.
Oh, yeah, like
And
entry fees to the White Marlin Open this year are like 150 grand to go all in.
yeah, yeah, that's lunch money for these guys. So when it comes to that, that's it's the opposite effect of it is that people have already achieved success on the personal side, and their passion is fishing, and they're going to go ahead and do that because they want the competition. So if you're going to be a bass angler and look to do that, make sure that all of your other ducks are in a row when it comes to that. So that would be the kind of advice I would give is get as many good people in your corner and have all those other business things that you would do just like any other job, because it's a job. It is a job. It's not just, well, I'm going to go and fish. This is your job, and you have to have all the other backings to get it to make it right.
And aim high, kids, and practice your butt off. One of the things that me as an angler, I hear all the time, I'm sure Michael does as well, is you hear the people that are like, oh, if only I had the boat and the electronics,
Mm-hmm.
I could do that too. There is so much skill and effort that goes into fishing. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be a weatherman. You have to be an electronics expert. You have to be a boat mechanic. You have to be a rod and reel repair center. You have to know how to rig baits. You have to know if fish aren't biting that day, why aren't they biting? If they're not where you think they're at, why aren't they there and where are they?
Mm-hmm.
If you do find the fish, that doesn't mean that you get the fish. It's so easy to look at like a day of fishing on TV or somewhere else, and you see a guy come back with like a small limit of fish, and you're like, oh, I could have totally beat that. But on that same day, a normal person would probably be skunked because it's just crazy to have a guy that'll get 50 pounds one day and 17 pounds the next day and then just be like, oh, well, I could beat that 17 pounds. It's like, hey, you got to reflect back. Yesterday you came in with some slammers.
Yeah, like you said,
And
it's the practice and knowing that. And these pros are the best at it. So
oh,
you
yeah.
have to be all those things. And we actually say, half of professional fishing is in the garage.
Yes.
It's working on your tackle, it's working on your boat. It's working on all the other things that you need to do. So what you see on the water and on a camera is just a fraction of the time it takes to put into it.
Absolutely. And I think bass fishing in America is by far the largest amount of fishermen. I believe when I looked at the numbers, it was around 3 million. And to think that the MLF Bass Pro Tour is whittled down to 51 anglers out of
Mhm.
3 million potential anglers out there, that shows you how extremely good these guys are, how
Mhm.
honed at their craft they are, and it's not impossible for you to get there. You just need to practice. Practice like no other. Be
Mhm.
passionate about it, live about it. You can make it happen. It's going to be a heck of a lot of work. It's going to be a long uphill battle, but people have done it. You could do it. You just got to stick with it, got to make it happen, be perseverant, but also make sure that you have a side bet as well. Something that, in case it doesn't work out, that you can do that as well, like Michael was saying, or something to help support you while you're on this journey. So we'll jump back into the every fish counts format is the
Mhm.
hallmark of the MLF. Can you explain that for our listeners?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, we have officials on the boats and 3 periods a day for the tournaments. And what we typically do is, depending on the fishery and the time of year that we're there, we set a minimum weight with our biologist and our tournament team that says, what, the average fish, is going to be around, we'll say a pound eight. Then that's the minimum. So if they catch a pound six, a pound five, that fish isn't scoreable. So with every fish count, as long as it reaches that minimum, they can catch as many fish as possible in that time limit. And by doing the minimum, it helps when they find a school. Because then it's like, well, I found a school, but they're not all of big size. Our first year of the Bass Pro Tour, we did not have a minimum, and there were times where guys caught on schools, and they're catching a pound and a quarter fish, but one after another, and it took a bit away from it, but they found them, so that was the game, and they already played with the same rules from that. So not taking anything away from anybody who won in those tournaments because everybody had the same format. But I think by doing that, every fish counts with a minimum weight, just raises the bar even one step further when it comes to it. So by doing that, we have tournaments that anglers will win the day by catching 70, 80, 90, even over 100 pounds of fish in one day, that meet the minimum. We've had some tournaments that go to 2.5 pounds. Even with our heavy hitters tournament, which we just did, there's a 3 pound minimum on our championship day. By making that minimum, it makes a big difference. And then for the Bass Pro Tour, the first 2 days are a combined weight. We cut the field to 20. The leader after 2 days goes to the championship round automatically. So 19 guys fish on day three. And we zero the weights on day three because obviously we're cutting the field, and then we zero the weights on day four. So it's 2 days and then one day when it comes to it. So you don't get a 40 aggregate of, he caught 100 pounds, but it's not a five fish limit either. So when it comes to it, the format really makes it for a different way of looking at it from the fishing. It also tells you more about the fishery when it comes to it, because when they're in, we don't have to have an angler, drive, 2 hours to a certain spot, and then he is got a fish and then drive all the way back to make it for check-in. If they drive 2, 3 hours to get to a spot at the end of the lake, then he fishes there all day. And when the time's up, then just he's done. He doesn't have to get back. So you really get as much fishing as possible, and you're not really just you run one way and not the other.
That's incredible. Do you guys have a rule on, say you're in a crystal clear lake, someone catches a 6 pounder, they let it go, you see where it goes. Can you catch the same fish twice?
You can't sight fish and catch the same fish twice in one day. And I'm glad you brought that up, because even in doing so, if you are sight fishing, you want to be able to catch it in the mouth. So if you're sight fishing and the hooks are outside the mouth, then it's not something that can be caught, and that's something that needs to be taken care of from that side of thing. That's part of having officials in the boat. That if they're sight fishing, they have to show the official, hey, hooks are in the mouth. So that's part of it as well, just to keep obviously the integrity. You're not snagging things, and sometimes it happens when the guys try to do it, but it happens anyway. That just the way the bass shakes its head and a hook gets caught outside, and then you got to put it back. Now that fish, since it wasn't scored, you can go back later in the day and try to catch that one if it's still on that bed. But in successive days, you can go back the next day, but not the same day.
And for your officials, is that a volunteer? Is that something that our listeners could potentially volunteer with the MLF and
Yeah,
get on
yeah,
the boat? And are
yeah.
there other volunteer opportunities that these guys can do to get involved with the sport?
Yeah, you can call just go to majorleaguefishing.com and link us there, or call our office. And we have a process every year of bringing in new officials. We do get some regional officials in different places. We used to bring them all from one place and bring them there. But it's a volunteer position. And actually, if for people who have an affinity for the sport. A lot of these guys are anglers themselves, and they live in a certain area, and they might be a marshal or an official for us. What's great for them is that they learn what these pros do. We obviously have them do a lot of training in advance as to what the rules are, so they need to know the rules of the game. But candidly, we give them pretty good swag back. I mean, it's a pretty good swag bag that our sponsors step up for the table and put together. So I've been in the room prior to a registration, and I've seen custom knives from Bubba, which is our scale sponsor. I've seen rods and reels, hats and shirts, tackle. So it's a lot of work. You're out in the elements. You're getting your butt kicked if they're going for a long run, and you're going to catch some waves. But it's incredibly rewarding that you're working on a professional sport. You are seeing how the pros do it, and you're having a great experience and learning a lot too. Obviously, there's one thing seeing it in person or watching it, on TV, but when you're in the boat and you see all the nuances of it, obviously that's going to make you a better angler as well.
So you guys heard it. That's the secret sauce right there. If you're aspiring to be a professional angler,
Go,
he just
go be
shared it. Go volunteer to be a
an official.
an
Yeah,
official on the boat. You get to watch these guys. You can hone your craft, and then you get to learn all of the rules that you're going to be using anyways when you're in the sport. That is an awesome piece of advice and an excellent opportunity for people to get involved in the sport. And it's even better that you said that they get a swag bag. Like,
Yeah,
even without the swag bag, it was like, oh man, I'm getting chills. This is an awesome opportunity for these guys. And then you just sweeten the deal. You're like, oh, by the way, you even get stuff.
that's right.
Sign me up. If it's free, it's for me. So probably my biggest question: how do you decide on what lakes and venues are for your MLF tournaments, and what factors are most important to you guys when choosing?
Well, of all the questions you asked, this is probably the one that I'm most able to answer because I did this for most of my career up until the past couple of years, where I managed a site selection. I did it prior to the other company, and did it at Major League Fishing, and worked with the different destinations that held the lakes and rivers. Where I would go, and now Chris Hoover is our guy that does it. He did it with FLW prior. Chris and I were really competitors when I was over at Bassmaster, and we got to work together. And now one of my dearest friends, and always had a lot of respect for him, and now got to know him as a person. Is just a fantastic guy, and is really in the sports travel and tourism industry. It's very interesting because there are all sports, the AAU sports, the softball, the basketball, all the amateur sports where people play travel ball and they go from city to city, and those cities bid on those events to try to host them. Hey, we've got a great basketball court, we've got a Clover baseball, park where we can have four games going out at the same time. But where there are lakes and rivers that are championship or tournament quality, we would go, and Chris does this now for the company, goes and talks to them about what we can offer them for our anglers, for the economic impact that we bring to the table, how many room nights, and if it's one of our televised events, whether it be the Tackle Warehouse Invitational tournaments, the Bass Pro Tour, Red Crest, the Team Series, the Toyota Series Championship, the All American, all things that have the media that are associated with it. We present them with the opportunity to say, "Hey, listen, we would love to bring our tournament here." And now, because of where the league is, these are long term relationships that we have with these destinations. So we may host a Bass Pro Tour this year, but next year we might host a Toyota Series and a Bass Fishing League tournament or a college or a high school event with that. So there's a new lake in Texas, Bodark, North Texas, that just came online, and it's just about ready to be tournament ready. But they're really not building a lot more lakes. So
Well,
we
you
know
just teased another one.
Bodark
Bodart,
is a good,
Texas.
not far from Lake Texoma, and kind of north, if I remember right, northeast of Dallas a bit. But they're not building any more lakes. So for geographically from where you are in the Carolinas, you know Norman, Wiley, Murray, Santee Cooper. We did events because of our format and size. We did events on Jordan, Sharon Harris, and Falls out of Raleigh, which normally can't host big tournaments because of their size, but because of our format and catch, weigh, and release in the smaller field, we can go to some destinations that have smaller fisheries that we can highlight that otherwise couldn't host a large professional tournament. So with that, we've been able to reach new places, bring our tournaments to new destinations, new fans, and of course, grow the sport. That's our end goal is to do that. So, been working with destinations for a long time. I used to be on the city side, years ago before I got into the fishing world, where I would bring events to the destinations, and so that's how that works. Is that we work with those destinations that actually bid on those tournaments.
If you've never personally fished Lake Jocassee, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's crystal clear water, tons
yeah,
of fish.
yeah.
Um, so is this something that you also work with like DNR with and the city as well to find out like, hey, what are the populations of fish here? How is this potentially going to affect it? With catch and release, it's not really as big of a deal, I'm certain, because the fish are going immediately right back to exactly where they're living.
It is, but it has to be healthy, and so we do keep track of what's going on. We follow what other local tournaments are happening. We get tips. Hey, this one's fishing really good right now. You might want to take a look at some of the local Tuesday nighters. But first and foremost, we try to look around to see if there are any other tournaments that are already booked at the time, so we don't book on top of another one. We want to talk to DNR, make sure our permits are done, and or the Corps of Engineers, if it's a Corps of Engineer lake that requires a permit. Sometimes even when we're doing that, we need a film permit if we're filming it. So that's different with that. but we have strong relationships with DNR and Fish and Wildlife throughout the country, whether it's for our catch and release format or our traditional five fish format, to make sure that we are in compliance. I live in Florida, and there is a permit that the anglers have to have for each of them if they're going to technically, once they put on the live well, they're harvesting the bass from that standpoint, even though we release them. So yeah, so we our tournament team manages that, and each of the different bass fishing league, the 1 day tournament organizers or tournament directors, they do that as well. So it happens from every level of our tournaments.
Now, do you guys pre-work deals with like DNR where it's like, hey, maybe we'll do the boat checks ahead of time before they leave, and boat checks again when they come back to avoid like excessive time burning during the tournament time?
It depends on the state and what's required. When for our tournaments, when they're launching in the morning, and they drive by, we want to make sure the safety equipment's on, that the anglers are wearing their life jackets, that their kill switches are working properly, that their running lights are on. During registration, we're going to check their insurance and that they have their fishing licenses and everything is up to speed there. There were times when we were doing some tournaments out west that we had to have their trailers checked for any invasive species. So if they're coming out or they're coming from another destination, they don't want to have any, grass.
Mussels or anything like that, yeah.
Exactly, from one to another. So we work with whatever the requirements are, but typically it's pretty easy, and we don't really have to do anything outside of what I mentioned.
I know a couple years ago we were trolling. It was like 8 a.m., 100 miles offshore, and we got pulled over by the Coast Guard. Thank goodness it wasn't a tournament. We didn't have any violations, but it's like right during prime fishing hours. We're 100 miles offshore.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Well, that actually, living in Florida, our governor just changed. I think it starts the first of July, if I'm correct on it. But just the random boat checks in Florida were done quite often, but there was no probable cause for that. And they realized that just because you're out in the water doesn't mean that you should have probable cause of stopping somebody because we want to just check your safety on, and that's no longer going to be allowed in Florida for that. That there has to be some kind of reason why they might be stopped. So from a saltwater perspective, obviously very interesting when it comes to it. We understand the safety issues of it, being a boater in Florida, but it's not something that, unless there's something that says, hey, there's something fishy going on there, we need to go check that boat, or they see people on the boat and they want to see if they have enough life jackets. The governor said no, that's no longer needed to do that.
Oh, and it's certainly not a knock against our great men and women that are in the Coast
Oh,
Guard and
great.
DNR. I lived down in Naples, like maybe 10 years ago, and
Mhm.
I probably 8 times out of 10 coming through that inlet, I would get pulled over. It was
Sure.
very excessive, but ultimately, I don't break any fish and game laws. I'm a safe boater. I have all my stuff.
Right.
I'm thankful that they're out there responding to people that don't have the correct stuff, or they're operating their boats under the influence of alcohol, which I don't recommend anybody do.
Right.
And they do a great job overall keeping everybody safe and maintaining it. And we're really thankful for those guys out there and our men and women in the military. We're thankful for them as well. So cutting into that and safety, how does the MLF ensure fair competition and angler safety across its various tours?
Yeah, from a tournament perspective, the big thing for us is communication and making sure that the rules that we have are obviously followed and communicated well by each tournament director. It's easy to go ahead and point to what happens on the Bass Pro Tour because that's the most visible one. People see what happens if there's a rules violation. We've had people call up during the live stream and try to call her up and say, "Hey, I saw that guy just do something," and it happens with the NFL. Like that was pass interference. It's like we have that, but with the lion's share of our tournaments happening at the amateur and qualifying level, it's imperative that communication is key. That people have a good understanding as to what the rules are, and safety is the first priority when it comes to it. So that's basically what we do, is making sure that our tournament directors go over those things during the tournament registration. People sign off on it. We check obviously their safety equipment when it comes to it, making sure they've got their life jackets on when they're leaving, and so forth. But when there are times during the Bass Pro Tour where, and we're full disclosure about this, that we do have truth verification systems, that just to double check. And most of the time when that's done, it's really nothing that is questioning anything nefarious. It's just kind of seeing, hey, did you get any information that you shouldn't have gotten? And is there something that you found out that isn't? The longer that we've had that process, the less there has been. Because if someone's at a gas station filling up, and some guy says, "Hey, guess what, man? There's a red house over there, and I'm throwing a worm by it," and they stop talking. I can't hear it. Don't tell me about it. And it's a big thing that the anglers get ahead of from that side, and they'll self-report. They'll call the term director, say, "Hey, this guy just gave me some information. I wasn't solicited. This is what it is," and then everything's clear from that. So that's what you hear about, because these are the highest level. But the important ones are, they're all important, but the ones that happen more so is that we've got 170 other tournaments going on, where there are everyday anglers. And if someone's spending their hard-earned money to go out and fish a one-day, BFL tournament, Bass Fishing League tournament sponsored by Phoenix Boats, they want to know that our tournament team is on the up and up and we're on top of things. We've had some of the same tournament directors for 15, 20 years that are fishing, and they do an amazing job. But it's a really hard job because they're new anglers coming in and out. Got to make sure everybody knows what's going on. We got to taking care of the scales, keeping the fish alive with fish care, and keeping the operation running right. So I think the longevity of FLW prior, and then with the merger with Major League Fishing, really shows how great of a team that we have on our tournament team. That they put out a good product, because at the end of the day, we feel like we're in the service industry. We're providing a service, and there's a tournament platform. We're providing a service to our sponsors because we want to give them a platform to reach our fans. And we're providing a service to our fans that we want to put out good content and show them what we're doing, so we can bring more people to the sport.
And there's certainly lie detector tests and different kinds of things across all aspects of fishing as well, even in the saltwater fishing. But it's very welcomed because it gives anglers the opportunity to, if they did witness something, they could challenge a call or something, because it ultimately is a lot of hardworking men and women putting their money in to do these
Yeah.
tournaments. You want to keep them as fair and even as possible. And with the safety aspect, one thing I have to give my hat off to you is every time I see on TV beautiful drone shots of all the boats leaving, if it's in like a creek or a tight estuary, they're all in a perfect line. No one's trying to cut around someone. Like, not only you guys as the MLF, but your anglers as well are absolute professionals, not only in catching the fish, but on the water. Every interaction between them is better than the last. Like,
Mhm.
it's funny, it's entertaining, it's non-conflict, and you guys really put on such a great program. Your
Thank you.
athletes, your staff, and everyone is just excellent. I'm excited to see where it goes. What initiatives does the MLF have in place for angler development, especially for up and coming talent?
Yeah, we are continuing to pour into our high school and college. We obviously know that that's going to be a big thing for the future. The other part of it is really understanding the needs of these guys that are fishing the one day Phoenix Bass Fishing League tournaments, and that's just the hardcore angler that they're out there doing that. So it's understanding what their needs are. That can mean something as simple as going to different lakes that draw better than others, because that's going to help participation and get them to want to fish with us. It can mean different times of years that we're going there. And it's just endless of what the different options could be for that. But in understanding what their needs are and trying to fulfill those as best we can, and doing what's right for our business, obviously, at the same time, that's really kind of the balancing act that every business has to do. And we have a very different challenge opportunity when it comes to it. When you talk about different professional sports, that we actually have the amateur component with us as well in the qualifying side of things, versus college and pro football and major league and minor league baseball, or in junior tennis, and the pros, or the Corn Ferry Tour and the PGA and live. So we have everything under one umbrella. So we have to try to manage that effectively. But that's the first part. The second part is really just staying ahead of the curve when it comes to technology, and providing those different changes and resources, where we're doing the things that we need to do that's best for the sport. And it may not be something that's necessarily always the popular thing to do, as we've learned. It wasn't popular when we did catch, weigh, and release, and every fish counts. But the sport really wasn't growing. We weren't bringing anybody new in. We didn't have anything new that was happening. And by bringing this format in that was different, and being, for lack of a better word, a disruptor in the sport, it raised the bar for everybody. It's like, okay, then maybe this tournament trail that's a Tuesday nighter needs to do a better job of doing this because of their competition, or they what, and it got people thinking. It may not even be anything that we're doing specifically that translates to what this tournament over here is doing, but it just gets people talking about, all right, well, what can we be doing better for that? So as I mentioned earlier, there's a responsibility that we have to do the best work we can. We don't. It's not that we don't pay attention to what everybody else is doing, but we need to do what's best for us and our league and our company, but our anglers and fans and our sponsors. If we concentrate on that, everything else will kind of ripple from there. When it comes to it, it's not about looking at what the competition is doing or what anybody else is doing. It's what's best for all of our stakeholders and making the right decisions from there.
And then also, you guys have the huge challenge of like weather conditions when
Yeah,
comparing to other sports, like
yeah,
weather conditions, conditions on the water, and like barometric pressure, like all of
yeah.
these crazy factors that play into fishing where it's like
Flooding. Yeah, we have a
it's
tournament this
anyone's
weekend
game.
that's a BFL on Arkansas River out of Muskogee that we already canceled for this weekend. We canceled, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. That we already said, hey, we're not going to be able to fish it. We're going to reschedule it for August. So, what's that going to? People have already taken their time off. They were supposed to be off on Friday. Now they're got to look to see if they can get the date off in August. It's part of. We can't just retract the roof back and start like they do at the Minute Maid Stadium in Houston and start playing. You're bound by what Mother Nature says.
Have you guys ever had to switch lakes due to like an outside factor like insecticides or something like that? Getting into like certainly don't mention the lake if so, but something that like, hey, this would really put a dampening on the fishing. Let's switch it to this other local lake or something like that.
Nothing that I could think of other than weather. In 21, we're coming out of COVID. We were changing for in 2022 we had our Red Cross Expo that was going to be in Tulsa. We just went through a really tough time of we wanted to move it to Lake Palestine, and then there was an ice storm coming, and in a week's time we moved it to Lake Eufaula in Alabama, and just to
I
try to
fished
get
there. That lake is awesome.
great. Talk about a community, a fantastic community that is just all about the bass. They've got a bass statue in downtown.
It's
The
huge. We have pictures with it. I'll post it up here.
Yeah, yeah. There's a coffee shop. I think it's called Lunkers or Lunker Coffee. But fantastic people, and that's the cool thing. Talking to you. Obviously, you're a saltwater guy. I'm half and half. Like I saltwater fish as much as I bass fish because of geography of where I live. But of course, I grew up and love saltwater fishing and bass fishing. It's amazing the wonderful people that we have in this industry. And I've been very fortunate with my travels to meet people over the past 20 years that are just good people. When ICAST is coming next month in Orlando, I'll be going to that and meeting with folks there. And, it's kind of like old home week. You see all your old friends, haven't seen them in a while, and very fortunate to be a part of an industry that it's a feel good industry. We try not to take it too seriously of what we're doing when it comes to the challenges and some of the controversies of things, because at the end of the day, we're bringing people to our sport that has a passion for what we have a passion for, that their dad or mom or grandfather took them fishing as a kid, and now they've got the bug and they want to do it forever. And now they're passing it on to their children or grandchildren, and keeping that going is important to our I think our American culture, and making this something special to be a part of.
And that's exactly why we do this whole podcast and everything is we got tired of seeing people getting beat down on social media from asking basic questions like, "Hey, I'm taking my kid fishing. How can I do it?" And people are like, "That's a stupid question or wrong advice." And we always felt important to answer those to help them because not everyone's as fortunate to get out as often as us. And then starting the podcast had two missions: get people better at fishing and fishing more often, and get people fishing that
Yeah.
aren't fishing, but then also to highlight all the innovation that's going into the sport, whether it's a small company that came from a fisherman that had an idea to a large company that came out with something that's revolutionizing the game. And most importantly, the great people that are behind it because we all love the sport of fishing and it's the driving factor and what everyone in this industry is doing. And there's so many great people everywhere.
Mhm.
And it's easy to just look at like a company as a company, but not to realize the humanity behind it and be like, hey, oh, that's a call that they made. It may not be a popular call, but then after listening to the podcast, it's like, oh, well, actually, like you met with biologists and found out that like fish mortality is a huge issue, and they're
Right.
keeping my local lake better because the fish population is going to thrive and succeed after the tournament. Now I'm not mad because I fish that lake all the time. Like
Right.
I'm not in the MLF. I may
Right.
fish the lake. Why would I want like more fish mortality or any of the decisions that you guys make? And it's just important to us to bring industry professionals like you in here and explain this stuff to people. And I think it goes a long way. How important are your sponsorships and participations to MLF success? And what do you look for in a partner?
Yeah, they turn the lights on for us. So just like any other sponsor at any other sport, but we look for sponsors that a bit of a symbiotic where when they come to the table, it's like they have a reason for that. We want to bring them in and obviously have them be a part of it. We want to help them grow though, and that's the big thing is that we don't look at it as like, oh well, they're a sponsor and they're going to advertise and put their logo on this. The question is, how can we help them grow? And we don't look for the transaction on this. We look at it as to what can we do year over year to do it, and I think that shows with so many partners that we have that are long term partners with Major League Fishing for many years. And that's the main thing is trying to find out what their needs are, introducing them to our market, and realizing that while we're not a traditional stick and ball sport, we provide a very compelling story that reaches a very good demographic that is passionate about our sport, but also a great American consumer.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys have some great sponsors as well and provide an awesome platform that's wholesome and people can feel good about watching. They can watch it with their kids. There's not going to be any kind of craziness going on. It's just an overall great thing. I try to get my 7-year-old son to watch fishing as well. He's not so interested in it because he's on his tablet, but eventually he
Right.
will be. He does like to go fishing though. So in your company, what role does digital content, social media play in your overall
Huge.
strategy?
Yeah, huge part of it. In fact, our new social media person just came from the Outdoor Channel, and so he's got a passion for the outdoors. And I think that's a big thing is to have someone who is on and people who are in the social media team that understand the sport and that are passionate about it. That makes a big difference when it comes to it. Providing digital assets, it's just. In fact, I was just listening to a podcast with a guy who started a drink company, and he was talking about viral moments and what makes things viral. And his take on it was making viral marketing things that made it relevant for us because of the content that we have. It's very organic. You can't do anything that you can do fun stuff that's more of a campy, kitschy thing to do. But our success in doing that, especially through our Bass Pro Tour tournaments, like when we had our buzzer beater a couple of weeks ago with Jake Lawrence, got a 5 pounder with 14 seconds left and won the tournament. That became a viral moment on digital. It got picked up by other sports social media platforms, and then they ran it. Those are the things that are important from our side of things to get out fast. And I think that's the other part of it from digital. It's not just about the content, but it's about the speed. But it's also about telling the story and having the right storytellers do it. And our digital team is fantastic when it comes to telling that story and painting that picture, because that's just another avenue to bring new fans in. So when that went viral with Jake Lawrence catching that fish with just seconds to spare, it went to John Boy Media, which does in fact that John Boy just did a thing with Major League Baseball, and they just signed a partnership with them. So we reached fans there that had never had been on that platform before, never seen us before, and now we introduced to a new audience. So getting that out there, but having our guys tell the story from another outdoorsman's perspective is so key. So our digital team does a fantastic job of that, and of course, we're on every social platform that there is. And then MajorLeagueFishing.com is a part of it as well. We can live stream. We live stream our tournaments and even the BFL tournaments, the 1 day tournaments. We don't go out in the water and film those, but we have every tournament weigh-in on there as well. So you can watch any of the tournament weigh-ins as well.
That's awesome. We have some ideas for viral videos for you. We'll share them later.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not
So
paying you for them, but I'll take them. So.
does does being good on camera and having good commentary for these anglers play a role in who's ultimately selected to be in the tournament or how much viewership time they get during these?
No, no. Can you catch fish? Because if we've got TV talent that's on there, so when we're talking about the live stream, if a guy's on fish and he's quiet, we're just not getting them talking. But we're going to have our TV talent there talking about it. Um, Obviously, these guys though understand the importance of promoting their own personal brand. They are wearing their own jerseys, their own sponsors that are on there, with the exception of the Team Series and Heavy Hitters, which are our sponsors. But they understand the importance of it. That kind of gets back to a little bit of what we spoke about earlier about how up and comers and high school and college kids need to be able to be well versed in public speaking is one of those. Not just accounting and business and marketing and selling yourself and having a good support group, but also being able to talk the talk and being clear and concise and coherent with what you're saying, so that hey, I've got the camera on me. We're live right now. Hey, I'm throwing this crankbait right now, and in 15 feet of water. I already used my forward facing sonar, so I'm just using my regular sonar right now. I'm catching a few of them, but I think I might have to move and go to a new spot right now. And boom, got it. Okay, we got it. And it keeps going. And then as he's catching them, oh, got one. Here we go. Bringing it in, talking to him while I was bringing it in. It's different than what was done, 20 years ago, because we didn't have that live coverage like we do now.
Plus, you guys do something awesome. You cut to like scenes where people are being filmed off the water as like short interviews to recap what's happening. You guys do pre and post tournament interviews. You
Mhm.
guys really cover all aspects of it and really show like the total picture of it. Do a tremendous job.
Yeah, but to answer it though, you got to catch fish in order to be on TV. So the good thing though is that with a smaller field of 66 anglers this year and 51 next year, we're going to have a rotation. So on days 1 and 2. We're going to make sure that everybody in short order gets camera time. But the more fish you catch, the more camera time you're going to get.
Yeah, because no one wants to just watch someone standing on a boat in the sun.
Right.
So, are there any plans for expansion of the MLF? One of our suggestions is saltwater fishing.
Yeah, yeah, we did. Yeah, so when FLW early 2000s was its own company before many years prior. They did redfish tournaments and kingfish tournaments before. And being a guy that lives here on the saltwater, I would love to see that. But I think there's some challenges really when it comes to it from the saltwater side, of where it's just a more difficult thing. I think it's a little bit is geography when it comes to it, especially if you're talking even inshore or offshore. It's so dependent on knowing that area so much, and you have to really practice that area. And you get a 30-foot plus boat, and you live in Charleston, but the tournament is in Clearwater. That's a long haul to go practice, and do that. So I think some of the challenges with saltwater fishing are a little bit different. I think offshore saltwater fishing actually has a little bit better opportunity for more tournament structures when it comes to it because of it. I'm an inshore guy, and it's nice because I can use some of the same tackle and go from bass to fishing for reds and snook and trout. So there's obviously some correlations from that side. But we talk about the White Marlin Open and Big Rocks tournament, and some of the other tournaments go around. Go to
Mid
Walker's Cay.
Atlantic.
There's a lot of different publications that own tournaments. I think those will stick around. I think those will be a part of it. I don't foresee us getting into that at this point. Part of one of the smart things that our leadership continues to do is stick to our core. We know what we do right, and you want to keep doing it. But so I think that's part of what we need to do from our business side of things. However, we have had others come in from other sports, We have done some saltwater content with some of our anglers, some fly fishing content with some of our anglers of what their interests are, and some hunting content, of what they do in their off season. So it's all those things, but it's more content based and not tournament based.
So, looking 5 to 10 years down the road, what's your ultimate vision for Major League Fishing?
Yeah, I think the expansion of our reach to a wider audience and seeing us reach more fans. That the Bass Pro Tour continues to grow in its prominence. That anglers continue to want to fish with us, and that's all directly a result of us putting out a good product. That's really what rests on our shoulders is doing good work at every department. We've got a fantastic customer service department that answers the phones and talks to anglers and asks questions. And it's amazing that how quickly they respond to things, and they email us on the business development and sponsorship team. Hey, we have a question from this, or this request came in for this information, and they're taking data and information from tournament anglers for signing up for the volunteer division on a tournament in Tennessee. But in the meantime, they're doing this and providing these other services as well. So every layer of Major League Fishing has a responsibility to continue to put out a good product. And I think, with that, we'll continue to see, the growth we've had over the past 7 years as we've merged into one company and moving on to the future. But how we manage the growth is just as important as doing new things and doing them well.
So, is there anything that you wish more people knew about the MLF?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the live stream and watching it, because once people watch it and they see it, because everybody has seen a fishing show. It's just, oh, I watch fishing. I watch Bill Dance. Bill Dance is great. It's edited. He's funny. He's been doing it for 100 years. We watched all different kinds of fishing shows, and all different tournament shows that are on. It's different watching their live stream, and I invite all my friends to watch it whenever we've got something going on. I send it up, hey, go ahead and watch it. And then once they watch it, like, dude, that was cool. Like I could see it's right there. What the score is right there. And we're cutting from one to another. We have a whole production team. Everybody's working just like you would watch when you watch Monday Night Football, and they cut to the control room and the guys at the desk working. Um, Really proud of everybody that works on our team, that puts the production on. So to answer that one specific question, if there's one thing, I think once they see the live stream, that's kind of the gatekeeper to see all the other great things that we're doing.
And where's the best place for them to find the live stream?
So the best and easiest is really on majorleaguefishing.com, because you can go to the MLF app and see that. MOTV is the app that you can get off your Roku, your Amazon Fire Stick, or your other TVs. It is a paid service to have MOTV, but if you click on it and just log in and make a login, you can see the MLF live stream complimentary. That's complimentary on there. To get the other content, it is paid for that. The Fast channel, the Game and Fish Fast channel, or the Rumble app, all free to watch. So,
That's
uh,
incredible.
yeah,
That's really awesome that you guys are doing that
yeah.
for free so
Yep.
more people
There
can
will be
watch
some
it.
more ways to be free that will be free in the future. So keep following us, because uh, no cat's out of the bag yet, but there'll be more ways in the future.
We're excited to see what you guys release at ICAST this year. That'll be great.
Yes,
Um,
you're gonna want to. Yeah, fans are gonna want to see that.
oh yeah, for sure. That's coming up in 2 weeks now, I believe, right?
Gosh, it is 3 weeks. Yeah,
Oh yeah, I'm
yeah,
sure you guys have a load
yeah,
of work ahead of you before
yeah.
that.
We do.
So what's been the most rewarding aspect of your role as the vice president of the MLF?
Uh, I'm one of a handful of VPs, and we've got a staff and team there, and it's similar to what I said earlier about people in the industry. I just work with really nice people, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, we're coworkers, but I want to hang out with them outside of work. It's a great place to work. They're wonderful people to work with, and for and on behalf of. We're a great team, and I'll give this example. When Major League Fishing merged with FLW in 2019, I had never been to the FLW office before, and flew there in Benton, Kentucky, and went up there and just kind of walked around, and just walking around the office. And there's all the old posters from um, some of their old partners, and they had a time they had a relationship with like Kellogg's and Energizer Duracell, I think maybe it was. And then National Guard, and so you see all these old jerseys, the heavy jerseys the guys were wearing, with scenes from the Forest Wood Cup trophies and tournaments. And one of them was from one of our current anglers, Brent Taylor, who I'm fortunate enough to call a friend, and I texted him and I took a picture and sent it to him, and I said, "Guess where I am?" And he says, he says, "You're visiting my family." And it meant a lot because here we are fishing with Major League Fishing, just bought FLW, and we bought them, but we merged really when it comes to it. And his take after not fishing with FLW for probably going on 6 or 7 years at that point, maybe less, but I remember around then that he was fishing other trails. He still considered it family, and that says something about the people that were there then that are still there now, and how they make the anglers feel. And I think that's a really indicative of kind of how our office is, and how we approach our relationships with our anglers. That it's we're in this together. We want everybody to succeed. We want everybody to do well. So that's really something to. At the end of the day, it's a job. It's part of my career. And as people know, if you work at a good place, it makes the tough days a little bit easier, because you got people to work with like that.
And if you've idolized one angler, either past or present, more than others, I'm sure there's a bunch.
Yeah.
Who would it be?
So I've been, even in my past jobs, I've been very fortunate to meet a lot of famous people, over the years, from politicians to celebrities. So I rarely get starstruck, even when I meet, really famous people. I just don't really get starstruck. It just for whatever reason. Um, but it's been great becoming friends with a lot of these guys. Skeet Reese is a very good friend that we talk, at least once or twice a week. Um, or text, send funny memes. Brent, Edwin Evers, knowing that I could pick up the phone and call, Kevin Van Dam and say, "Hey, we've got this. Can you this? Can we help this person out?" Even though he's retired and he's doing the Kevin Van Dam Experience and the Outdoor Channel, great show that he's now producing. So the relationship with these guys, that they're tangible. That we just had our tournament in Kentucky Lake 2 weeks ago, and uh, Jacob Wheeler won that tournament. He's won 9 tournaments, and he stayed until about 7 o'clock at night, and he didn't leave until every kid got an autograph signed.
That's
And it's that kind of stuff that makes a difference. That he kept signing and did not leave. And he's the number one angler in the world. There's no stopping him right now. There are some fantastic anglers that give him a run for his money, but the guy is on fire, and he's not showing any signs of slowing down. And he makes time for the fans. And I can say that about really all of our guys on MLF, that making time for the fans and doing that. It's been great knowing these guys, and looking forward to helping them grow their own personal brands as well.
I would say mine would have to be Bill Dance, Fish Fishburne, Kevin Van Dam. All of those guys are just excellent. Now, I mean, everyone in the sport is incredible. And if any of you guys ever want to come on the show, we're happy to have you. We'd love to have you. Reach out to me at deepwaterlegends@gmail.com. So wrapping this up, is there any message that you want to give out to your fans or prospective fans? You can touch on where they can reach your content at, and if you want to touch on your sponsors one last time, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, so go to majorleaguefishing.com for really the base of all of our content, and then starting this July, the first Saturday in July on the Discovery Channel, watching our Bass Pro Tour shows that will be on there. We're always on the Outdoor Channel with our shows from the Team Series, and then re-airs of the previous year. Really interesting that the Team Series shows are the number one show on the network, and the re-air. So we'll air these Bass Pro Tour shows, the Discovery Channel, starting in July. And then next year we'll air the the 2025 shows. They're the number 3 show on the network. So, our content is, our team just does an amazing job of coverage, and producing and editing these shows to do that. But go to majorleaguefishing.com, and you'll get all the content that you need from there, and see everything we have. We're on, of course, Instagram and Facebook, Major League Fishing Official, and Major League Fishing 5, which is on there for the amateur and qualifying tournaments. But man, thank you. This has been fantastic. Really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry we didn't talk enough saltwater. I'd be happy to, we could do that. I'm trying to get some tips from you, because when I'm saltwater fishing, I went off a couple weeks ago. We went for snapper here with a friend and got some snapper and some red grouper. But man, anytime you want to talk saltwater fishing, I'll be happy to listen more to that one because I'm still a rookie when it comes to that. But I think it's always a learning curve.
Oh yeah, our
Yeah,
knows.
stay tuned. Yeah, some fun stuff and more places to watch, and more things. But the big thing is putting a good product out there where we do right by the anglers and our fans and our sponsors, and we keep this ball rolling and keep bringing the great American sport to as many people as possible.